And it is podcast time. I have Colin Thomas from WeWillFixIt and Essential Maintenance Dubai in the house, which means we're talking DIY. It is the WeWillFixIt podcast.
Gee whiz, you gave me a big build up there, didn't you?
In the podcast world, as you always say, people don't know when you've not been podcasting. And we've had a week off.
It was 2, wasn't it?
Was it? Maybe.
I think we had 2.
Was it 2 weeks? I don't know.
Yeah. It's good to be back. To be brutally honest, I think it's an absolute outrage that you leave me on my own for 2 weeks without my therapy session.
And I keep saying to people across the internet, on LinkedIn, on anywhere people will listen to me, that podcasting is not only a great way to tell your story, and that might be the story of a company, might be the backstory of things. It puts a human face on what you're doing, but it's also therapy.
Oh, absolutely.
And as much therapy for you as it is for me.
Well, that's nice to hear. It's a bit of self-reflection, isn't it?
Yeah.
And podcasting makes you do that because it makes you think about the things that you've been doing, not just over the last week, but probably for a wider perspective as well. And actually, I've walked in a bit of a grumpy mood, to be brutally honest, James. Yeah. So
and I got worried because I walked in here and the lights were all off, and I'm going, oh no, I'm going to have to go now hunt down the folks who open up the doors. They came running because someone sent a phone call. James is going to be there, and he's going to be there early, so can you go open up? But I also noticed all of the coffee machines were off, and I went, oh no, not good, not bad for me because I already had my 3 shots of espresso coming in, and this is a bad side of coffee, so this is going to be good and bad because you're going to tell me your story. There's apparently some study out of the UK that says if you have 3 to 5 espresso shots a day, that could be a negative cholesterol event, and it could actually work against you.
Oh, well, I'll take it.
So tell me, what happened? What happened this morning? Got you off to a bad start?
So, as you well know, I upgraded about 6 months ago to a lovely Nespresso updated.
The machine got.
It's great. I love it. Creatista Plus. It's amazing.
Creatista
right?
Plus.
Now, the one problem that I've got with it is when
Hold on. How long have you had this machine?
6 months.
6 months, and you've got a problem with it.
Well, no, it's not a problem as such. It is a design fault. Which I don't like.
Mr. Clooney, if you're... we know Mr. Clooney's listening.
Of course he's listening.
Yeah, from Lake Como.
What else has he got to do?
On his patio, drinking an espresso.
Obviously.
From, what's the machine called?
The Creatista Plus.
From the Creatista Plus.
Yes.
But please take note and pass this on to your guy.
Yeah. So, Billy Basic, when it comes to maintenance, when it needs to be maintained... Is
that a patented term, Billy Basic?
Billy Basic.
I've never heard that before.
You're kidding.
Never.
I grew up with that. In fact, my dad would... That was one of my dad's phrases, actually, thinking about it. He's like, why do you have to make everything so complex? It should just be Billy Basic.
This is the first time I've ever heard that. My grandmother, rest her soul.
Rest her soul.
Born and bred in London.
Right.
England,
not Ontario. My dad thinking about it.
So she must have used this term all the time, and I just didn't ever catch on.
It might just be a family thing,
Okay.
I haven't really thought about it that much, but I've used it constantly.
Time to do some research on that. Anyway, right. Billy Basic. So, if those of you who are trying to keep track, this is the WeWillFixIt podcast.
We're talking about maintenance. Yes. It just happens it's coffee machines.
Hey, it happens to everyone.
Yeah. So I was there, and today the red light comes on to say it needs maintenance.
Yeah. Cleaning.
So I'm like, no worries. I'm tight on time today, so on that basis, I'll do it tomorrow. I hit the button to do my usual, knowing fully well that this evening I'll actually have to do the full session on it. And it decides straight off the bat, when it first showed me that light, that it would no longer work immediately.
That is so smart on the Nespresso people to get you on the maintenance.
No! What are you talking about? Absolutely rubbish. You should have about 10 cycles so that you can fit it around your schedule.
I have a Breville. And that red light comes on, says, clean me. And I think it just starts flashing. I don't know, because I've waited a while to clean it, but it doesn't stop the coffee maker.
No, see, I would be absolutely fine if it gave me 3 or 4 days maximum, right? Yeah. No, immediately.
Wow.
Furious I was. So, obviously...
How long's a clean cycle?
15 minutes.
And do you have to put in the little tablet,
It gets worse than this. So, at that point, I go and I find a descaler. Okay? I've got powder only. I've only got 15 minutes. On that basis, we double time it. So, double the amount of stuff, and I literally just eyeballed it because I'm really short on time now. Because obviously I've made the right decision, which is everything else I've got to do to get out the house stops. because the coffee machine is not working. Because I ain't getting out the house without the coffee, whether you like it or not. Obviously, at this moment, I've got the chirping in my ear going, nah. You've got all these other things to do. I didn't hear a thing. Literally, absolute iron focus on this. I'm completely in the zone. Okay? So, I then work my way through it. So, quick handful of a descaler. Obviously, it's too much descaler. I know that already. So I've already got the spoon there, giving it the whole because I've only got the powder, because I've already used all the liquid before that would have been the really quick option, right? But I know I'm short on time because I've got 10 minutes. I know the cycle is 15 minutes. So I'm there literally giving it all this before we start on the cycle. Then towards the end of what I thought was the cycle, it just stops.
Oh, no. It's got to wait. It's got to let the descaling action happen.
Well, all the way through the process until now, we've had constant noises, which is making me think I'm making progress.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
No, silence. Okay, so I'm getting quite frustrated at this point. And then it goes, empty the jug and put a clean jug back. So I'm like, at this moment, you've got to be kidding me. It's a 2-stage cycle. How did I not remember that from last time that I did it? Well, the reason is because it was 6 months ago, probably. So I then do the second cycle. I'm like, yeah, here we go. Yes, we've got it now. It says empty everything. I'm like, when it says empty everything, that is the moment when you are at the end of the cycle. Press one button, away we go. Refill the water and let it go through the third cleaning cycle phase. I'm like, you must be kidding me. And now at 7:08 a.m. and at 7:50, oh, by the way, I'm at 7:08. I'm not in work clothes yet. I'm, et cetera, et cetera. So
you're waiting for your coffee.
There's no two ways about it. Kids are going, literally having a day off school if I can get coffee out of this machine. So literally then at 7:11, we have got the coffee machine has finished its cycle. I'm like, get in. Right, okay. So I'm in trouble, but this isn't a complete nightmare. So I go to use the coffee machine, and it goes, at the same time, it goes, you have to do the service on the wand, the steam wand, as well,
no.
at the same time as the main descaling, right? The wand was working just fine. There was no issues with it whatsoever. So I did what any sane person would do. I did what any sane person would do. And
Scream?
I literally, no. I decided to keep it calm because I've already got in my ear. Don't tell anyone. Keep hitting the button, right the way through the cycle until it did its final on the machine. And then it gave me the all clear. Okay. So then at that point, you got the milk, and it's like it tries to make you feel like you're a bit of a barista. So even though it's Nespresso capsules, you have a separate milk jug.
Yeah.
I had the milk jug ready. It was like 20 minutes ago. I've got my milk jug ready. So I put the milk in, and I'm like, oh, here we go. It's clean now. So the froth is going to be absolutely amazing. It didn't froth. So I'm now thinking, did I actually... No, I've put so much rinse through this. It should be absolutely fine. Anyway, in the end, I thought, stuff it. I've had enough. It's hot, so we'll literally make the coffee, right? So,
what's the time? What's the time on the watch at this point?
Oh, I'm at 17:18. I'm supposed to have left at 50, and I'm still in the in the rest of it. So then I'm literally putting the coffee capsules in, and I forgot that I've got a mix of coffee capsules that I bought off Deals to Buy. Actually, really good quality. Segafredo, is that it?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Anyway, but I also forgot that these are the ones that take absolutely ages to get through the machine, and I need 3 cycles. So literally the look of it's gone from verbals to just looks now. We've got total silence. That's the one that scares you, isn't it? Because what you know is, although you can't hear anything, she's hit that dolphin note. That one that's not audible, but you can feel it.
Yeah.
But there's no two ways about it. The kids aren't going to school until I've got coffee. So there we went. Did the 3 cycles, got it in, got upstairs. Literally, I went through the shower and I didn't get wet. It was that quick. And out we went. Now, then get in the car, and I've got my little off-road route to school.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, here we go. Come on, please work. Anyway, I've got my next door neighbour in front who's also a member of our Beetle racing team. So I'm like, great, Ollie will clear the way for me. He's quite aggressive in his own special way.
Yeah.
Anyway, bless him, he only went and did it. I've got cars diving in all directions. I've got pedal to the metal with Ruby screen. Can we go faster? I'm like, well, if you ask, I can deliver. So,
you're holding the coffee still at this point?
Oh, I'm drinking the coffee whilst doing it.
Has it got a lid on it or no?
I just want to know. That's brilliant. Coffee. I haven't got it here, but you've seen it in the past where it's a button on the side.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That opens it up. It is so good. And even better, I got it free with a Pajero. Somebody left it in there. So washed it a couple of times, and it's been mine ever since.
Side note, the best place I've ever gotten thermoses is from the lost and found at schools at the end of the year when no one's claimed everything.
Yeah.
My wife would always go, "You're not going to take any of that." I'm going, "What are they going to do with it?" What goes out? I said, "There's perfectly good, thermoses here."
Exactly. I'm trying to work out which one I'm leaving behind. What are you on about? Absolutely. So, I mean, Natalie finds that utterly disgusting as well, which now I know that's not modus operandi from now on. So, we are at this stage. So I managed to get into school. See, I've done quite well here because I managed to, the earliest that we can get into school is 7:30. Gates open at 7:30. 7:34, I'm in the car park. Normally it's 7:28, so I'm doing all right here. And 7:45 is registration. So in we walk. Obviously, the one slot available is the furthest one from the door.
Yeah.
Always the way, isn't it? So I've got the kids whose feet don't touch the ground as we are flying through the car park, with me obviously holding on to them because everybody else is driving like an absolute lunatic too. We get into school, and I don't know what it was, but I guess because we've just had that long weekend, I'm guessing that everybody was late because it was so quiet and relaxed. And I walked in, obviously, I mean, just been through all the coffee debacle, and obviously, once you've just had a complete nightmare making your coffee, you're going to make sure you drink it. So I've drunk a whole lot on the way there. So I'm absolutely flying into school. And everybody is just totally and utterly chilled after a long weekend. So I get the kids dropped off. I send a message to Natalie. Not only have I dropped the kids off, I even remembered both swimming kit and also some approval form that I've got to give one of the teachers. And I'm now pretty much back on time. And then I hit Hesse Street.
Just when you think you've got it all sorted.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm like, James is going to be really proud of me. I'm going to be absolutely on time again from what I've just done this morning. And then I had to send you that message. I'm on Hesse Street. It could be a long, long time. And as it was, half an hour it took me to get here. Normally,
it's that set of lights, isn't it? It's that set of lights,
yes.
And then people cutting in and out, and it's yeah.
I've just thought we're supposed to do 13 minutes, aren't we? And I've gone way over that, aren't I?
We're at 15.
Hey, that's not bad for me. I'll take that. Right, so when you go and put one of those markers in.
Yeah, we'll do that right now.
There we go. See, it's almost like I'm a pro these days, but I'm not. I'm rank amateur, but luckily we've got you to try and pull it all back, which is good news indeed. Now, for those of you listening, this is obviously a maintenance podcast. Let's move on from coffee machines and my crazy morning.
But the maintenance of a coffee machine is so important.
Yeah, it is.
Does that Fango Dango Nespresso of yours, does it have a countdown timer to let you know? No. See,
actually, it will do, but it'll be in the menu system. So I've got its whole kind of full screen menu system.
So it doesn't have a little thing on the bottom that says, you're getting closer. You're sort of like a little dial that's wearing down.
No, and there's space for that as well.
That's a great idea.
I know it is, because that way I would do it on the weekend when I've got time in the morning.
And then you could override it and just do a clean before it needs to be done.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So, no, that's a really obvious one, James, but hello. Right, well, that's obviously a George Clooney, isn't it?
Yeah, Mr. Clooney.
Sort it out.
Yeah, please sort out that little thing. And if Nespresso's not thought about this, why haven't you thought about this?
Absolutely. One thing that they have done, mine was the nuts when I got it. Careful your language, Colin. And what they've done now is they've now got a Creatista Plus. I'm guessing, I don't know the real name, a Plus.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of disrespectful, I've made my purchase now you've got an upgraded it. But I do like the upgrade, which is, at the moment, we've only got the one compressor.
Yeah.
So when I'm trying to do multiple coffees, because I'll normally make one for Natalie at the same time.
You've got to wait.
Yeah, I've got to wait between the two, the milk and the other one. And it actually works out, especially when you've got the Segafredo really slow capsules. It takes quite a while to do. So I'm kind of, the new one has got two compressors, so you can do both together.
Yeah.
That really works with the Henry Ford in me,
Maybe you can trade in. Maybe you can trade in.
You can actually. They do a really good trading system from Nespresso Direct, but it's slightly different normally, which is if you have an old broken Nespresso or an old, they don't really care if it's broken or not, they give you a discount on the new one.
Okay.
And I managed to combine everything, that and a big discount on the main price to actually get this for sensible money. But there we go.
Well, okay, let's get back to maintenance then. And it is starting to heat up.
Yep.
Summer is on the way. Spring is in the air all over the world. What's kicking at WeWillFixIt?
Well, this is that moment where those people who kind of survive most or as much of the year as possible without AC.
I know someone like that in Jumeirah. You do not. We were sitting, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but we were just sitting talking about your electricity bills. I'm pretty sure they call it hydro bill because in Canada, a lot of, especially if you're from, a lot of electricity is generated by hydroelectric.
That's
of course,
awesome.
there's some nuclear stuff and wind, but there's a lot of hydro.
Yeah.
And so we were talking about their hydro, and they said, oh yeah, they live down in Jumeirah, and they said, it's about 800 dirhams a month. I'm going, really? And I'm going, wow, that is amazing because we're just two and ours is not that. And she goes, well, we don't have the AC on yet. And I'm going, what?
Yeah. See, where it's got interesting now is you've got those people who will have the AC on at night. So bedrooms have been turned on, and that happened a while ago normally. But those people who are holding off as much as possible, last week it hit. And so they pressed the button, it all went bang.
Yeah.
And then we got the phone call, which is great. And we really appreciate it. So that's the kind of the stage that we're at now with AC. So busy, which is wonderful. It's late this year. It's really late. So that's a worry for us. But it's here now. And we're absolutely and utterly ready for it. Our guys have been trained within an inch of their lives. Again, and this is a constant thing that we do.
Because you do have a little bit of turnover, right? So you've got new guys that you've got to get into. This is how we do it. Essentially, unlearning some of the AC skills they've gotten from previous employers.
Absolutely. And that's a major element for us.
Yeah.
So they need to understand the way we do it because it's been honed now since 2008, our process. And our process is much more long-winded than most of the processes that people will use here because it has to be right and we warranty everything that we do. So on that basis, we don't jump steps. And if you don't do those steps, we will spot it.
Nice.
So, part of the role that our head technician does is to go and recheck jobs around and about so that we can work out, nip in the bud if we do have somebody who's jumping steps.
What else are people starting to call in about right now?
Lots of bad smells.
Oh, you know what? This is an interesting one because we had the Roto-Rooter guys from the city out front of our house. That's that big, I don't know what they call that truck. But there was like 5 guys. It was actually really cool because this was a new German truck. Guy had radio controlled things on it and it was amazing.
I'd love to have a play on that.
That's what I said. Can I have a go on that? He just kind of laughed. He said, can you get me into Canada? It's like,
there's a trade-off for you. Yes, me first.
So they're opening up all the sewer grates because I said, what's the deal? And he goes, do you have any smell in your house? And I'm going, nope. No, nothing that's abnormal. And so they're opening up all the sewer grates because they're saying, well, some people down the block are getting quite a sewage smell. So there must be a blockage somewhere. So they were opening up all the grates to flush the system, I guess. So he opens up the thing in front of our house. It's dry.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's what I said. I looked down, I'm going, I'm looking at it and going, there's like, no, where's the sewage from my house going? Because there's no flow in this grate that's right in front of my house, like zero. I mean, it is so dry. It's like it's never had flow.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's what I said. He goes, no smell in your house? And I go, nothing. Sewage is flowing? I said, yes. He goes, he just looked at me and went, there must be another exit somewhere. And then I'm looking at this giant tree. So, because where I live, we used to be on a septic system. Where they used to come and suck it out. And I have this giant tree in front of my house that is growing at an abnormally great rate. And I'm going, so my fear was when you opened up the thing, there was going to be full of roots.
Yeah, I bet.
It's not full of roots. It's just full of nothing. So that tree is getting huge because it's living off of something. So I don't know where. And I don't want to start opening up all sorts of grates because no problem. Why start getting worried about something? But the sewage guys also didn't think it was an issue. They said, don't worry, we're gonna flush all this stuff out and it'll be flowing before too long. I went, okay.
The smells are coming, James.
but so people are getting smells.
Yeah, lots in apartment blocks, actually.
Oh, that's even worse. So, I mean, we're talking sewage smells, or are we just talking smells of the career down the hall?
Sewage smells, which is about as much of a nightmare as it goes, and actually not something that we really specialise in.
Are these new apartment blocks or old apartment blocks?
Relatively new. And it seems as though they didn't bother installing U-bends within them, which is silly.
Is the U-bend where there's a little flap in it? Is that?
Yeah, you can have that. You can have that kind of seal, or alternatively, a physical U, so that basically water or something is trapped in there.
Right, gotcha.
So it's one of those. It's really kind of a pain in the neck.
So how do you guys fit into that?
Well,
because you're not really plumbers.
we don't. Well, no, we've got very good plumbers, but the problem with that is it's fabric of building rather than necessarily direct within apartments. And also, if you imagine in an apartment block, quite often it's in the roof void of the apartment below.
Oh no!
Which is where it gets quite painful. Now, equally, because it is part of the original design, and it's a design fault, if we start getting involved with that, we've got a whole building there which will be designed in exactly the same way. And secondly, the building management generally will not be too happy for us admitting that there is a problem here that needs rectification.
Yeah.
So you end up in quite a kind of a nasty situation where, generally speaking, we would advise and we would give the details to our customer of what we found. And then they need to have that conversation with the building management, and we're absolutely fine if their building management take on the work to rectify, to solve the issue. So we'll almost do the fault finding side. If it is something that is not directly related to fixtures and fittings or readily accessible pipe work, then we're there to give the details over to our customers so they can decide what happens next.
How do you troubleshoot that? Do you end up pulling off the toilets, or you just know?
You have to go. It's just a trial and error, to be brutally honest, and structured trial and error. So reporting is absolutely key at that point, and we make that really clear to the customers up front. There is not a golden bullet here. All that we can do is start one thing at a time. If we try more than one thing at a time, we don't know what's fixed it and what hasn't. So therefore, it is multiple visits on almost all occasions, and literally one thing with the reporting from the technician has to be right, so that even if it isn't the same technician, we have all the detail of what's happened, and we can go job after job doing one thing after the other.
Now, how do you deal with a customer who you're going to go in, you're going to troubleshoot this, you're going to look for the issues, you're billing all along the way, and you may not be able to do anything?
Simple. Have that open conversation at the very beginning, which is, this is exactly what you've got. There isn't this isn't just a straight fix it. Or if we get that, it's probably a 1 in 20 where, in fact, that's not true, probably 1 in 10 where we can actually physically go, aha, there you go, that was it, job done. It's one of those where there is no other way. Whatever people tell you, there is no other way.
Now, in that situation, if typically we're talking toilets, I guess, where the smell is coming from, or is it coming up the sinks as well?
No, because that's grey water. But again, you can get those grey water smells, which are they're a little bit easier to deal with grey water.
Well, usually because you have the trap anyway underneath, so that you get a collection point there. Is there no way to retrofit in just underneath the toilet a gasket or anything? Not underneath
the toilet, not there. But again, it is one of those which is almost unique based on the physical design of the sewage system, or grey water for that matter, as to how you would tackle it. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. But then if you imagine from a customer perspective on the phone to us, that makes it really difficult, because there isn't a standard solution that we can say, oh, this is what it's going to cost you, and away we go. So what we normally do is say, look, we need an hour here to work out exactly what your system's got. However, be aware there is a very good chance it is going to be trial and error, and it'll be structured in terms of the way that we approach it, but it's highly unlikely that within 1 hour we'll be able to solve your problem. And then people have got a very open and honest decision to make from their own perspective as to whether or not they want to proceed with that. Which works. You know, it's generally, I keep saying to all of our team that if you are overt in terms of your communication with customers, they will respect that. And it's much better than leaving things unsaid. And then when the bill comes, you get a customer who's then not happy about it. And they will, every time that anyone mentions WeWillFixIt, that is the association that they have. And to try and get people to understand that by having the conversation up front, even if the customer decides they don't want to proceed with it, it avoids that negative association that's absolutely key to having a sustainable business.
Any idea why these smells are cropping up now? Are the apartments that new that it's just they're getting worn in now and these defects in the design are becoming apparent? Or is it time of year? It's getting warm?
Yep, it's time of year. So if you imagine right now, we've got a mixture of the maximum difference in temperature between day and night, which creates thermals, which actually works through the building itself, through the fresh air vents, which, and again, it's one of those where pressure changes and push smells in different directions, and it's not just about sewage system, it's about anything that can cause a pressure change. So AC can cause it. All it is rotation of air, after all, that causes a smell. If the air wasn't moving, there would be no smell coming out. So you know that there's movement to smell. So that's massive as well. Obviously, with increased temperature, has a negative effect on the smell of sewage anyway.
Yeah.
So all of those things kind of combine together. Also, without a doubt, the fact that they are newer buildings means that this hasn't been sorted until now. And again, when a building's new, it often takes a couple of years before it is actually fully tenanted.
Yeah.
So it's only when it gets stressed that these kind of issues will come about more prevalently.
Do you think there's a fix for giving what you know now? Is this something that the building's going to have to address?
Well, oddly enough, I just heard from he's one of the British dads as well. I just heard from the customer that apparently we fixed this in another apartment.
Oh.
But the odd thing was that wasn't on my tracker. And we've got the tracker. We've done 82 jobs in this building.
Wow.
Yeah. And
so basically you just need to put up a flyer and say, we know this building.
Well, no, because on the tracker that we had of 82 jobs, we didn't have nothing flagged to say we'd fix this. Oh. So now I've got to go back to the team and go, you said that we hadn't done this job. Check out this one. What's this one stating? Have we missed it? Or has the customer got the wrong end of the stick? So we'll work it out from that and see whether or not it's the same. Also, what works in one apartment, you would have thought you could roll out. Never the case. So we'll have to wait and see whether or not we have a
different construction team. Put the sewage system in one, and one person had a bright idea. I'm going to do it a little bit differently. Yep. Or as I've been seeing recently with vehicles delivering product to work sites, things aren't strapped down and things are on the road. I've seen this a couple of times now. I'm going, what are they going to do when they get to the building site and now they're missing 3 pieces of conduit?
Yeah.
They're going to improvise. And yeah.
It's one of those, isn't it? But again, I've got to say the development concerned is not one that is known to be problematic. Yeah. So I'm hoping it's not too difficult. But again, we'll just see where that takes us.
Anything else cropping up? That's an interesting one, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, we've got, I guess duct cleaning is the other thing that's really coming around now. And people are very aware of air quality. And also, I don't know whether you've noticed, but there's a few bugs that are going around Dubai as well.
Yes.
So trying for people working on their indoor air quality to try and minimise the number of colds and coughs and sniffles.
Well, I think there's reduced mask wearing happening. I mean, people are wearing masks, but there are places, and my wife laughs because I'll go into somewhere or I'm walking around even outside and I still have my mask on. She's going, you don't have to wear the mask. And I'm going,
yeah.
And I'm looking around and I'm going, there's a lot of people with chin diapers on, and then you get in and they're wearing the chin diaper inside. Chin diaper, by the way, is when you wear the mask on your chin and it just kind of shields your mouth, which has zero benefit to anybody.
Now, do you know, in the other areas of the world where they talk in hundreds of thousands of COVID cases, the fact that we are currently at 319 cases sounds really low. But the fact is...
That's actually pretty high. It went up. It was lower.
Exactly. That's the point I'm making. We were sub 200 and solidly sub 200 10 days ago.
Well, you know what the other problem is, and I'm going to fire this in based on Toronto, Canada, and Ontario, where their numbers now no longer have any relevance because, they can't get enough of the PCR test done. Here we don't have that problem with PCRs, but we now have a new problem, is there are people who are rapid testing, and those rapid tests don't get reported. And if you're rapid testing and you test, positive, you might not go get a PCR because you're going to say, well, I'm positive, so I'm going to self-isolate for 10 days or not because, I'll just mask up and I don't have any symptoms and. So we are getting, I think there's, globally, I think the number of cases might be higher than we suspect.
I think you're absolutely right, but I'm particularly worried that in the UAE we're starting to get complacent now. And we as a family aren't, because with Dylan's allergies, we're never going to slip.
Well, the one that gets me in, and I'm thinking back, bird flu time when I was traveling in Asia, and we've done a lot of Asian travel as a family, which is just lucky because it was the affordable travel we could do as a family. Yeah. And coming in Canada, going to places like Bali or Indonesia or Malaysia are places that you kind of go, ooh, that's so amazing. Whereas for here, it was just affordable to get to. And when you got there, it was really affordable. And I always remember, 4 or 5 years ago, we'd be walking down the streets in Kuala Lumpur and people are wearing masks. Yeah. Not because there was COVID, just because air quality, because of people got sniffles and colds. Yeah. And close proximity.
Standard in Japan.
Yeah.
It always has been.
Yeah, you get on Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, you get on the subway, people are putting on the masks because you're close to everyone and someone's got to sneeze.
Absolutely.
I thought, this is good operating procedure. Just keep the mask on.
Yes, absolutely.
So
it's one of those, isn't it?
So duct cleaning, people are paying more attention
so duct
to.
duct cleaning is there without a doubt. Coils kind of comes as a function of AC service. So, and to a degree, probably duct cleaning as well, because when we do an AC service, we will naturally inspect the coils. It's right in front of us anyway, and we'll inspect the duct because that's the best way from the indoor unit end rather than from the grills to get an idea of how things are. But you can get a fairly decent idea of the condition of your ducts by the fact that if your AC hasn't been serviced in 4 months, which it should have been, have a look at your grills.
Yeah.
If they're covered in dust and dirt, where's that come from?
Yeah. And sometimes that dust and dirt is dark.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I've seen stuff in previous cleanings and I've kind of gone, hold on a second.
Yeah.
What is going on here?
Absolutely.
And it's really fine too.
Yeah,
so it's, you start thinking about all the dust and stuff, and you have pets, I have pets. So we vacuum twice a day at our place.
Oh, we don't need to for that. The wonders of woolen dogs.
So we have to, and it's amazing. Forget just the fur that's coming up, but the amount of dust and dirt.
Oh, actually, no, they are extremely dirty, bless them.
So I just kind of go, man, this stuff's in the air.
Yeah,
I'm getting it off the ground. It's in the air. So, one of the things that's got me really thinking lately, and it has to do again, and I thank the pandemic for this, 2 years of pandemic, and indoor air quality questions, is indoor air flow. And I got to say, I've been in a number of offices lately where I'm sitting there going, what are the airflows like in here? Because I'm not noticing any airflow.
Yeah.
It's cool. So obviously the air conditioning is working, but I'm not physically noticing airflow. And that always gets me worried when you've got people breathing and potentially shedding. Forget COVID. Normal cough, cold, and flu stuff.
Yeah.
And airflow should be number one. And you can't open windows in a lot of places.
Yes.
So the HVAC needs to be thought about.
Yep, absolutely spot on. Something we're going to spend a little bit more time on is whether or not we can improve filtration systems within ACs. It's all a little bit Heath Robinson at the moment, because really the ideal scenario would be something that's both HEPA and charcoal.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether or not we've got the ability to get that here, but that'll be a little side project to look at, see whether or not we can come up with a solution for that, I think.
The never-ending conversation. We haven't been talking for a few weeks. Shed's done?
Shed is done.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you, everybody. I think it was only, a year and a bit?
Yeah. But there is a recent podcast that went up, go back maybe 2 or 3, where you were extolling the benefits of slow DIY.
Now, as you might have noticed at the time, and you probably kept quiet about, whatever I actually happen to have been doing is what I will extol.
So, but it made a lot of sense.
The logic is there, which is there's nothing worse than a project that drags. So walk away from it for a bit.
Yeah,
come back to it when you're in the mood.
Don't make the mistakes, because as soon as you start speeding up, and a lot of us DIYers are good at some things, but not all things. You start speeding it up, you start making mistakes. It looks like a dog's breakfast, and you're forever noticing that imperfection that you built into something.
And I've got to say, that shed works ridiculously well.
But it's done.
It is done. Now, the thing that's
what pushed you to get it finished? Because you had an hour left, and
I just had that. I had that hour available, and I happened to be outside at the time, and I just finished
perfect weather,
washing a car, and I was already a little bit hot, and I thought, you know what? No, I'm absolutely fine now. So let's just do it. So
nice.
It's all good. But the thing that I really noticed, as you know, it's a Dutch barn design.
Yeah.
And my father-in-law Warren, who is an engineer, and I remember that every time I open the door, it's perfectly
Does he
made.
move back?
No. Jeez, I took a sharp intake of breath there.
It's like, no, do you know something I don't know?
What's wrong with you, James? Let's not even talk about that. Right. Anyway, so the great thing was he installed a shelf for me, which just naturally sat on the side beams. Yeah. And normally, if you imagine a straight pitch shed, there wouldn't be much space there. Well, because I've got the Dutch barn design, I've actually got a whole load of Pajero alloys stored up there,
nice,
all the way across, and it's absolutely perfect for that.
Well, that's amazing.
So I've got so much gear in it, and it's all arranged and useful, and I can get at everything, which is wonderful as well. Well, about 5 sets of Pajero wheels in it.
Very good.
As you do, because everybody's got Pajero wheels in their shed, haven't they? Haven't they? No? Call me odd. And it's wonderful. I'm really, really happy with it.
Oh, good.
It fills me with joy.
So what's the next project? You never don't have a project ready or in motion.
Cars. It's cars.
You're just dealing with cars.
I've had a crazy weekend. I've sold 3 this weekend, including a BMW X5 that was an absolute project. Bought for scrap money and managed to find all the parts in Sharjah via a guy, and it's the only way to get it back on the road for anything economic. And I sold it inside a day.
Wow.
So that's worked out really well. Very happy with that. And it's lovely. I've done really well. So it's nice when it all comes out and you go, that's how it should be.
And you moved it on. That's even better.
So that's gone. The borer is almost finished now. I still haven't declared it. I'm hoping I don't have to declare it and I can get it sold before I actually need to declare it. But then I also think I might have just part exchanged a very broken Ford Explorer for a Pajero as well. So
how do you exchange a broken Ford Explorer for a Pajero?
Well, basically, in my world, this is perfectly normal. In fact, almost everything that I've sold recently has come with a part exchange.
Okay.
So, and I'd love to do it normally on a Pajero, but if something's broken at that point, I'm all in. You know, this could be a financial catastrophe. No, I'm still interested. You know? So the X5 worked out okay. It is a full dash off. Actually, the car's currently with Glenn, which is interesting, but it's not economic to do the work. Through the official channels anyway. So
this is the Pajero we're talking about? Or the X5?
This is the Explorer is currently
the Explorer. Okay.
Yeah. So it's blown its shocks, and apparently there's some kind of warranty claim on the shocks. Well, you know what? Forget that. You're never going to see it. So I'm just waiting to hear whether or not that's all going to come off. Yes, it's a very low offer for it, but it'll be a fun project. Yeah. I could lose my shirt on it as well, which is always the fun bit, without a doubt. The borer is literally just doing bodywork now. All the mechanical's been done at Powerworks, and that one's going to be fascinating because it's either going to be a total catastrophe or somebody is going to utterly love that car because it is a 2.8 V6 4Motion, so 4-wheel drive, and it is beautiful. And it's black on black on black, so it is an absolute weapon. But then equally, it's 2003. And I found it derelict. I mean, when you say derelict, it was really derelict. Yeah. And it was going to be my track weapon, but then the Beetles took off, and a couple of friends have also got track cars that they always are kind enough to lend me as well. So when I'm not in a Beetle, I've got something else to race around anyway.
I did check out those 2 Beetles, by the way, by me, both automatic transmissions.
Yeah, I thought it would be. And they normally are here.
And they were just sitting there, though. I don't know why someone has got a couple of Beetles, but he does, or she does.
Yeah.
And
the problem with the automatic is they blow very quickly on track. If you really push those automatics, they don't like it. So it needs to be the manuals. But again, I'm hopeful. Actually, we've got one a week. Yesterday is the next session, and I'm hopeful that I'm going to get at least 2 more cars on track, which would be great.
Powerworks, has they got theirs out on the road yet?
Yeah, Powerworks is out. Actually, Chris Darble, who looks after that, is there for every session, and normally blows up, to be fair, and Glenn's got his head in his hands because he's like, I've told him this and he's doing properly, but Chris, bless him, is a bit of he loves that whole bodge culture. Yeah. So, but gradually we're getting there. So I donated him a compressor, AC compressor, so at least he's got some cold air now. So hopefully it will get more and more reliable as the sessions go on.
Nice. All right, I want to hit one last thing on our show notes, and we've gotten to number 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Out of 20?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch on there, isn't there?
Cool.
Yeah. Well, which just means we'll get to the rest of them next time.
One day. Maybe.
The one that I want to talk about is the basic skills, and I just put randomly the number 3.
Yes.
And my students think I'm infatuated with the number 3, and I say, what do you mean? He says, well, everything you do that you teach us, so whether it's public speaking or it's intercultural communication or it's conflict resolution, which is really a 7, but you always work it into 3 steps.
I think that's because for most people, and especially myself, anything beyond 3 and I'm lost.
Well, I always frame it with them is that 3 is the classic linear development of a story. So
Agreed.
if you're
Yeah.
you know, beginning, middle, and an end. And so beginning, we introduce something, the middle, we have a problem, at the end, we've solved it, and we move on to the next thing. So it could be 5, but it's, Tataroff has built it the 3 into a 5. There's a couple extra steps. But really, any movie you watch, if it's linear flowing up, doing, time warping, everything follows that 3 step. So I thought, the top 3.
Agree.
3 skills as a homeowner or a renter that you should have entering into that world of living in a place as a DIYer. 3 things you need to have.
So as a basic DIYer, as in I'm not going to really do anything too involved, but I'm just going to do the basics myself. All you need really is drilling,
okay,
screwing, and leveling. Those 3.
Okay, the drilling I get.
Yes. So with a drill, we've talked about it many times before, but it's all about make sure you get a hammer action, keep it steady on the wall, and make sure that you use plenty of speed.
There you go. The speed is the important one. I think a lot of people go way too slow.
Yes.
They start off slow because, I got to get this pilot going.
Yeah.
And then they keep going slow, whereas you need to be good, especially here because you got concrete walls and you're dealing in concrete.
Yep. And also there's a sweet spot normally. If you've got a variable, so I've got a variable speed that's constantly variable, and you can feel that point at which the hammer is working best. So I'm kind of playing with the speed a little bit just to work out where's my hammer best for this particular density of wall. But it's normally pretty fast, and my drill is so noisy. I mean, it's awesome, but it's so noisy that literally I do warn the neighbourhood before I'm going to let rip.
We're doing some work here.
Yes. So that's
do you wear earplugs when you use your drill?
No, I should, but I don't. Yeah, valid point. PPE.
I've really gotten into the earplug thing. I'm kind of obsessed with earplugs these days.
No, rightly so, and even more shockingly, I am fully qualified in health and safety. Gee whiz.
I know your boys wear earplugs, so.
Yes, they do. Yeah. So the second one's screwing. Now, this is not as simple as it sounds. Because
it sounded really simple.
Yeah, because most people think, I'll drill a hole, I'll put a screw in it, and away we go.
Done.
Yeah. Doesn't work like that. You need plugs as well. And the plugs that go
There's a lot of variety of plugs.
Yeah, there are. There really are. But when it all boils down to it, it kind of boils down to the cheapest ones, which are just really soft plastic. Normally come with the screws as well. Normally don't hold in a concrete wall. That's the problem.
They're usually made for wood, those things.
Or
something, because wood, you use wood screws, but.
Yeah, but you don't normally need to use plugs with them. So I think they've just cost reduced them so much that the material is just too pliable to actually grip on.
I was thinking maybe gypsum walls or something. Maybe
no, but again with gypsum you should be using butterfly clips, which is something totally different.
So they're just cheaped out.
They're just cheaped out. Yeah. So instead, torques. So my boys will all use individual torques that come in red, green, or yellow. Green ones are the normal ones that you would use with. I think they're designed for 6 millimeter drills, and they work great though. They grip on really, really well, and away you go. I buy them by the kilo, because we get
Dragon Mart, or are you buying them at a settler?
Yeah, I do actually still. I still buy them from there, but I actually use those personally. My boys buy their own, and we're good with that. Because don't worry, we pay for them.
Yeah. But they source them themselves.
Yeah, because if you imagine, if you are a professional technician, you need total trust in what you're doing. And these are critical to what they do. So I want each of them to be fully responsible for what they are using on a job.
Nice.
So I've agreed that for those alone, they can source themselves.
Nice.
Yeah, and it works really well. So there's actually a variety of brands that each of them uses, and away they go. But if anything falls down, I know who to shout at.
What do you think of metal ones for outdoor use?
Well, yes, on the whole. But again, if you're
these are the plugs we're talking about,
Yeah, on the if you're outdoor, then on the whole you'd be using some sort of M fixing anyway. So you have the type that are kind of designed for the DIYer that actually deform. So you stick them into the hole, screwing whatever you're going to screw, and it'll deform. The idea is that it kind of basically just creates a bung in the hole of where you are. The ones that I prefer are kind of more industrial than that, and at that point, generally speaking, you are never getting them out. Even if you take the screw out of it, it's going nowhere. And those are the ones that I love, because if you can't hang off it, what's the point?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, over-engineering is always the way.
So basically, you got your drill. You've got some plugs.
Yeah,
you got
leveling.
Leveling.
Okay.
I never think of the leveling side.
The reason why I brought up leveling, and I thought about this quite a lot on Hesse Street today, is if you imagine the two jobs that your average, very basic DIY will do.
Pictures and shelves.
Well, I was going to go pictures. Yeah, you could do shelves as well, and which fits in beautifully. But I was actually thinking more curtains. That if you're trying to save a bit of money and you've moved in somewhere, you might try curtains
as
well.
You get the IKEA things, get the rod, boom, it's done. Yep.
Yeah.
Curtains, pictures.
Yeah, so therefore level on all three of those elements is absolutely critical. There is nothing worse than walking in somewhere and seeing a picture that is not straight. But then you then have the issue of what actually is straight, which is the battle that we have on a regular basis. So when our guys traditionally put up a picture, they will use a spirit level, which is what we recommend people to do. Now, a spirit level will tell you absolutely accurately whether or not that is level. Yeah. The problem is, if
that's the one with the the rod with the little ball, and then it's got the line, and you got to get that little air.
In the space. Okay. And the longer the better for that, by the way, because the more accurate it would be.
So that little tiny one that they sell for,
they're all right if you've got a little picture, but the longer you get, the more accurate it will be. Nice. But then the problem is, if either the floor or the roof are not in true, which is very often, then it looks like it's been put up wrong.
Yeah.
So then in that situation, our technicians need to talk to the customer and go, okay, that is correct. Look at the bubble. It's absolutely right. But it doesn't look right because your floor or your ceiling or both are out. So let's do an eyeball where it doesn't offend you anymore. And we're going to knock it off the actual level so that it looks like it's level, which is nuts.
Yeah.
But that happens frequently. Yeah. So that's something that needs to be done.
Even in the prefab places, that we got a lot of prefab stuff.
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, because the false ceilings are still in there.
Because I would think that because it's prefab, even with the false ceiling, that they would get spot on with everything.
No, because it's still jointed. If you imagine it comes in sections and it's still jointed, and that joint can put it out by quite a margin.
Huh.
So that's that. Now, curtains. Obvious one that when you're putting up a curtain, it's actually probably the most difficult one to level. So using, again, a longer spirit level is critical in that situation. I would normally measure it. So I would start off with a measurement first from a datum point. So it's normally like the corner of the frame, and I will go a certain distance out from the frame and a certain distance up.
And away you go.
Okay. Well, then it'll still need a little bit of tweaking. So then look at your fixture, the fitting, and normally they're pretty savvy, these people who make curtain rods, and they will give you like an oval shape to give you that ability to balance it out. So normally I'm confident enough in my measurement that with the simplicity of being able to move one of the brackets up and down, I'll be able to true it later. So I'll do that later in the process as a whole.
Nice.
Shelves, more difficult. Again, sometimes they give you that, and it is kind of key, especially depending on what you're putting on it, to make sure it's absolutely level. But again, you've got the same issue as you've got with pictures, which is if the roof isn't level, even though your shelf is, it can look awful. So there's a little bit of messing about that's required to get those absolutely right.
Man, see, there we go. 3 basic skills. We need to have a little bit of a skill school for people to get back into those.
Yeah,
and
good idea.
Understand what's going on. That's maybe something we should do.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Colin, that's a wrap. We've done it again. The We Will Fix It Essential Maintenance Podcast, putting it to bed for yet another show. Looking forward to doing it all again real soon. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
You've been listening to the We Will Fix It podcast. I'm James Pikeway. Colin Thomas was here, and we'll do it all again real soon. Go scroll through the other shows we've done. Lots to listen to, lots to learn, lots to laugh about. This is Podaholics. My name's James Pikeway.